existing. And then I was sitting there noticing that my couch had imprinted lines and buttons on my arms. And my first thought was, man, my couch must be like, one, my couch must love fat white ladies because we are the best silly putty. And how else will the couches like communicate with the other couches in the house community other than by me imprinting and then, like, a bee with pollen, like taking the message to all the other couches. And once I started thinking about my couches as a community, I realized that they are in a big contest. They're having like a frat boy style contest to see who can dump us all on the floor faster. The couches, I don't know about you, but over the last couple of years, my couches have lost like 3 inches. Is it because I weigh more than I used to? Maybe, but I think they're doing it to my roommates too. Like the couches are just lower and lower and lower. It's like a reverse game of Pong that they're playing. They're trying to see who they can let fall through onto the floor. And as soon as I had all these thoughts, I realized, oh, I've taken too many drugs. That like those are not regular, get up and go brush your teeth thoughts. Those are thoughts that, and it's true. I had taken some muscle relaxants because I'm a excuse me, I'm a 50-year-old middle-aged lady, and so my drug deals are all for prescription drugs. I don't get them from doctors. I still just get them from people who have expired drugs lying around, but we don't exchange money. They just are nice enough to come bring them to me because they feel sad. And that's a very different, the classic drug deal is, a guy who owns either a lizard or a snake, something that needs an aquarium. You know that guy, and you go to where he is, and he makes you feel bad, the purchaser. But once you are an old person, it changes. Now drug deals are, it's usually other women. They come to my house and I make them feel bad, the seller. So it's still whoever house the deal goes down at, that's the sad person. That might be the rule. I don't know. Anyway, my friend was kind enough to come over and give me expired muscle relaxants because I have been sitting at a computer for like 15 hours a day for 6 months. So I don't have a back anymore. I just, like, when I stand up, the chair comes with me and I walk into the kitchen, and I can't walk around that much. So I thought about all these things. And then I realized how sad it was that I was both too old to do real drug deals anymore, and that I couldn't even tell when I was having a nap. And I thought, there's a story in there somewhere. So that's my story for today. I appreciate you guys listening. I'm very excited for our first performer. She is a fantastic member of the Boston comedy community who does really unique stuff. And she's very popular on social media. And she's been running, there's a Twitch channel called 2MB, 2 the number, M the letter, B the other letter, uh, that she is on, where she holds a class about how to write tweets. And I watched it and I loved it. And I was like, I got to get her come to tell the story of how a tweet works, because she's great. And she's also, I just noticed, and I realized that I've noticed this before, she is in the Diet Coke camaraderie, which I think is extremely important, very important. Yeah, there's only two kinds of people, and the ones that are going to live longest drink Diet Coke. That's the truth. So please put your hands together for the extremely funny and wonderful Rachel Jane Anneman.
Hey everyone, welcome to me, my giant face on your screen or phone or TV. How do we watch things anymore? It varies. But thank you for letting me be in your space, proximity, digitally. Thanks. Angela asked me to show you guys how I write tweets, which will require me to share the screen. So get ready to see my computer and the things that I have on it. So I'm going to just share that right now. So one thing I did was I do this sort of I do this almost instinctually now, I've been on social media since 2008, and by social media I mean mostly Twitter. And I've been writing jokes on Twitter for about as long. And so now, whenever I hear something that sounds like the first half of a joke or a post, I often just sort of log it. So as Angela was talking, I was logging in sort of the things that I thought would lead up to fun posts for you guys. So if everyone has a story to tell is just a great way of leading up to a joke because you can put anything after that. And then expired prescription drugs, I thought is a funny idea because it reminds me of when I heard that phrase, I thought of milk. So, for example, a fun post could be, um, uh, I have uh, I have a lot of uh, prescription drugs in my house. Um, I never check the expiration label. I just know if they're bad by smelling them, which I like because that's how I tell if milk is bad. And what if milk and drugs were the same thing? A lot of tweets basically are like, what if my stupid thought was the real thing? Because I can have endless a lot of tweets for me. What I cherish and revel in is the idea that um, perhaps my stupidity is actually intelligence. So you kind of go about the world and you have all these like scores of premonitions and suppositions, and you recognize the outward appearance countenance of stupidity, but perhaps not. Um, and you're like, well, what if I make a joke about it? And then if I'm actually smart, someone will post in the replies that I'm actually right about how something works. Um, uh, about opera. I've written really bad, stupid posts about opera that turned out to be a favorite of people who have majored in opera. Because the truth is, nobody really knows how anything works except for the people who are experts in it, and they'll tell you that the world is often stupider than you think it is. We're just gonna start posting stuff. One of the first rules of tweeting is just to get into the habit of it. Don't like nurse your thoughts too much because they will often like the milk from my thoughts expire. So let's throw this out here. I have a lot of expiration prescription drugs in my house. I never check the expiration date. I just know if they're bad smelling them by smelling them. So we'll just throw that out right there, and then we'll see if it works. I have about 11,000 followers on Twitter right now, which is about, I assume, like a football stadium's worth of people. I don't know how big stadiums are. But what's cool about that is that if nobody likes your joke, you know that it's a bad joke. Because so many people see it. You never have to be like, well, it just didn't find its audience. Like, if it's going to find its audience, it's going to find its audience with 11,000 people. I'm basically talking into a giant air horn, and then people come back and it's like, we didn't like it. All 11,000 of us talked about it and we didn't like it. So, so you can do that there. This is not my tweet, but I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me blow this up for you. This is something I read today, and I'm like, this is good. When the moon hits your eye, and you mispronounce tree sycamore, was just like that's just like a fun joke, right? That's like a good one. So somebody named James Bromley, who has one of those like, he doesn't, I don't follow him, he follows me. Maybe I will follow him. Maybe I should. I often go into people's profiles if they like my stuff to see what their deal is, because I always think that's interesting. You see here, he's has one of those like Powerpuff avatar makers when they had Powerpuff avatar makers. I think that was around 2011. Why would I open my DMs on a show? I always do. I always like do that. I always like open my email like while I'm in a show, and I'm just like, wait a second, this is private correspondence. But I always forget. It's just like it's just twitchy. So let's see. Everyone has a story to tell. I I opened my DMs during a Zoom show. And then felt bad. So that's another tweet. That's a tweet right there. Angela, I apologize. I completely forgot to log the time. How much time do I have left?
Don't worry, you're doing just fine. You can be done as soon as you're done.
Great. Okay. Cool. So we're gonna put that. So that's a good tweet. So another way you can do tweets. These were obviously inspired by Angela's story, and I was able to piggyback off her cogent thoughts. I was able to manufacture cogent thoughts, or this amalgam of such based on her cogent thoughts. Otherwise, if I don't have like a thing, an inspiration to draw from, I'll often just sort of free associate until I find something. I find a subject or topic that interests me. So for example, we'll just start something simple. Balloon animals. Sometimes I'll be like balloon animals, and then I'll like rack through my head, like, do I have a funny thought about them? And then I'll be oftentimes I'm like, no, I don't. Everyone sort of is on the same page about them. I don't have any funny insights on balloon animals. Um, uh, I'm like, maybe what will often happen is I'll like write something, another joke for something else, and then I'll have balloon animal material because I like put it out there into the world that I'm looking for it, and then my brain is just like, what if this? So right now I'm just gonna free associate balloon animals. Makes me think of circuses. Cirque du Soleil, rest in peace. The Cirque du Soleil is interesting because they like just shut down, right? They just closed. Did all of them close? So the first thing I'll do is like Cirque du Soleil. I'm not even gonna try to spell that, right? Because I don't want to. I'm not going to do it right. I'm not going to possibly do it by accident correctly. So my parents have Bing as their I think there's a Bing as their default search. So just forgive them their trespasses on this count. I know it's hilarious that that's true. Cirque du Soleil, cool. All we needed was how to spell it. So Cirque du Soleil, did they go out of business? Let me see. Cirque du Soleil. Epcot revamp renovations begin. I guess they're not totally gone. So these things all. What did I think that? Why did I think Cirque du Soleil had closed? I guess they're still having stuff. Maybe it was just like in Canada or something. But anyways, now my premise is that I was gonna like be like how they like flipped into foreclosure or some sort of like gymnastics plus sad end to them, but obviously they're still around. So my premise is just trashed. We're just gonna trash that because I don't have a joke now. So we're gonna keep on free associating, guys. Cirque du Soleil, sun, sun hat, sun, parasol, sun hat, parasol, parasol. Um, uh, is like an umbrella for the shade. If you're a lady, do guys do use parasols? Have men ever used parasols? It's a parasol is a historical. I believe it's sort of an antiquated object because now we just wear hats. Which is like funny. It's just like, did they not have hats? Or if parasols are better than hats, then why don't we just still use them? There's a lot going on here, which I feel is material. Because one thing I feel like is true is that a subject is rich if I start to have a lot of thoughts that sort of bounce against each other that feel like they're in there's like a frisson or a gentle conflict between them. So like already with parasol, I'm thinking, why don't we still use them? Are they gendered? Have men ever used a parasol? What if it wore a tie? What if your parasol wore a tie? What if it was distant towards its wife? So now you kind of like man up, masculine up. You mask up this. When I say mask up, I of course mean MASC. if you can't hear the C, I'm sorry. What if it were a tie? So this one I feel is like a little goofy. I feel like there's like a segment of the population that will just never buy personifying objects, and for them, you will always lose them when you do that in a joke online. Is a little bit too silly. But for those who like personifications, this one I feel will do pretty well. And you just tweet that up. So here you see one thing I like to do is take a gentle break and just see who's enjoyed the jokes I've written so far. You don't get laughter. You don't get like a nice audience response when you of the that visceral thrill of people laughing in your face, which we are no longer privy to. But you do get to enjoy. You do get to know exactly who laughed. And then you can research them, which has its own pleasures. Let's see, who's responded? Were you the one on stage? Yes. Let's see what else. Yeah, one thing is that it's harder to navigate when I do Zoom shows because I have to blow up everything big so people can see what I'm doing, and then I am therefore lost. So we'll just write a couple more before I throw it over to the other amazing comedians. We'll just do maybe like 2 more, or until I'm happy with like one where you're like, this one should be the end of my set. Sometimes we don't get there. So if you so we talked about parasols, which are funny. What else is funny? We talked about gender, the word mask, mask up versus mask up. I don't think anything's there for me. That joke isn't for me to tell. So we can just move on. You're just like, someone probably has a good take on that. It's probably not me. We're gonna move on, mask up, choo choo, choo choo, chug chug. Somebody just wrote, I'm thinking of, there's a tweet that came out today or the other day where someone's like, how many chugga chuggas should there be before choo choo? And that's like one of those intrusive thoughts where you're just like, how many? And people have different views, and they're violently committed to their views. They're like, if you don't believe 8 chugga chuggas or before choo choo, then you're not welcome into my family reunion. So which are like, those are the kind of fun conversations to have as well. Not political. Cool. So I'm gonna try to do like one more good one. I've already talked a lot, and part of my process is procrastinating, even when it's something I love to do and feel nominally good at. My favorite form of I almost said masturbation. My favorite form of procrastination is thinking of an out to the show I'm in. These are jokes I play. This is like this fun tension where you're like, I'm writing a joke for the show I'm in that won't necessarily make any sense if I post it. And you're like, that was just for me. Imagine you're in the Zoom show. You're watching the Zoom show I'm writing takes for. Thank you. Oh, I think that's a good one. It's meta, but I think people appreciate meta, and also they just appreciate being thanked for having done very little or nothing at all. Cool. So that's how you write a tweet. Thank you. My name's been Rachel Handelman, and this has been my show. My set within the show. Sorry. Stop share.
Guys, give it up for Rachel Jane Handelman. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. A million ideas went through my head. I cannot wait to figure out what my parents have instead of Bing. They're very old. But thank you. That was really, really fun. I appreciate it. So our next performer coming to the stage, this guy is fantastic. He has helped me run the show back when we got to go into people's houses. And he is super sharp, and he's been making, I mostly saw them on Facebook Live, but they might be on Instagram too, stuff like that. Making little videos during quarantine, starring himself opposite himself, which I love. I think he's really good at it. He's extremely funny, and you guys are going to love him. So please put your hands together right now for Andrew Vickers.
All right, thank you. Everyone can a thumbs up if you can hear me all right so far. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. My name is Andrew Vickers. I want to tell you guys a story real quick about the time that Owen Wilson kicked me out of a gym and then a few days later whooped my brother's ass. And both things were my fault, 100%. So I grew up down there in rural North Carolina, but then I went to school outside of Charlotte in Gastonia. And Gastonia is a part of the earth that's like I'm sure if you dumbed it down Lynn a little bit, like if you took Lynn and you made it like nasty, that's what Gastonia would be like, or like Worcester, and then took out all the colleges. Uh, Gastonia is just a heavy hitter part of the country. Great place to grow up. Lots of culture there. I went to school there, and I lived between years in college with my brother. My brother had an apartment. I did not have an apartment. My brother had an apartment. I stayed on his couch, and he would go to work every morning. And after he went to work, I would wake up a few hours later. I would watch, Netflix all day long, and I would massage my aching feet. So it was a productive summer between junior and senior year there. One day my brother came home and he said, I want you to watch this film with me, this movie that just came out. It's on Netflix. It's called Masterminds. It's a movie starring Owen Wilson and Zach Galifianakis. And it's about the true story of a group of rednecks who in 1997 pulled off what turned out to be the second largest heist of cash in American history, where they stole 17 million out of the back of a Loomis Fargo armored car and got away with it for several months before getting caught. It's a funny story. The movie's a lot of fun. You should watch it. But and there were references, of course. This was a group of rednecks who were from Lincolnton, who was another small town, Gastonia type, somewhere between Charlotte and Hickory, where I grew up. The number of references in the movie to places that we knew of from growing up, to places that we knew of in our hometown because it took place there in Gastonia. It was just a lot of fun, and Zach Galifianakis, who was from the next town over from me, um, and his accent was just adding to it very beautifully. So we had a good time, and then the credits started to roll, and they did that thing where it like shows the actor and then the person they're playing, and it said so and so did his time in prison, got out 11 years later, suspiciously short amount of time, got out 11 years later, owns a construction company in Florida, doing very well. Moved on to Owen Wilson's character. Now, Owen Wilson plays the redneck who was not only the bad guy behind the entire thing, but also put out a hit on the other members of the team in real life. Um, Shows the picture of the real guy, says so and so did his time, 11 years, got out, owns a gym in Gastonia, North Carolina. My brother pauses it and goes, holy shit. I said, what? He said, that's the guy, dude. That's the owner of my gym. My brother went to a gym less than a quarter mile away. He would walk every morning. And on the outside, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But on the inside, I was like, oh my God, yes, something to do. I can't describe how excited I was. I, I was so keyed up for what I knew I was going to do and how I knew I was going to ruin my brother's summer. I don't know a lot about sports, but it's probably like how you guys feel when Tom Brady, would get a slam dunk against the Yankees in the World Cup, and you would like do a haka, to the guy next to you. Um, it's like yeah, I was excited. So, so like I knew in that moment I'm gonna go mess with this guy, but I didn't know exactly how I was gonna do it. So the next morning, as usual, my brother got up and went to work, and I slept in, and I went in his room and got his gym card that has his picture on it. Started walking to the gym. Now my brother and I look barely alike, but the girl behind the counter couldn't be bothered at all. I'm not sure who she was. Probably Chastity. I don't know that for a fact, but a lot of dudes in the mid 90s were naming their daughters Chastity, unironically, in my part of the world. I'm not sure what that means. But, he couldn't be bothered, man. I scanned the thing. His picture showed up, didn't even glance at it, and I went into the gym. not an arena of life that I'm particularly familiar with. I went to a machine and started doing, uh, some toe curls and some leg locks and some bicep crunches. I started doing the things, in the gym, and I was just hoping for a chance to see Owen Wilson, and I didn't know what I was going to say to him, but I was just really hoping for a chance to see murderer Owen Wilson in my hometown. And as I was doing some toe crunches, after about 5 minutes, I felt a big, beefy hand descend on my shoulder. And this guy turned me around, and I'm looking at murderer Owen Wilson right in the eye. And he's like, boy, you got a gym membership here? And I couldn't think of anything to say other than to look in his eyes and just grin from ear to ear. And the levels of realization that stripped away in the moment of him going, this little son of a bitch watched that movie, didn't he? And it was just beautiful to behold. And as he got angrier and tightened his grip, I got laughier. And all I could say was, I mean, man, I'm a real big fan of your work. I mean, wow, it's just incredible all the things you've done for us. It's just, I'm a real big fan. I mean, wow. And he dragged me out of there. He knew he dragged me out of there, and he dragged me out into the front, onto the asphalt. He asked how I got in, and I told him I took my brother's thing. And he said to me, you tell your brother next time he comes in here, he and I are going to have a problem. And I said, yes, sir. And I went back to the apartment and didn't tell my brother a thing. A couple days later, my brother came back to the apartment, like going, hey, you got anything to say to me? I was like, nope, not a thing. He's like, you want to explain to me why murderer Owen Wilson threw me out of the gym for absolutely no reason? I said, oh yeah, I might have stolen your card. But in my defense, Chastity didn't even say anything. I mean, it's Chastity's fault, if anything. We barely look alike, dude. And anyway, he forgave me after a little while. I never got jacked. I never met the real Owen Wilson. And they never found out what happened to $2 million of the 17 million that's still missing. That's actually true. No one ever really found out either how murderer Owen Wilson only did 11 years for stealing 17 mil and farming out murder to a guy who fled to Mexico, but it's not important. What is important, though, is that a few years later, I was at a coffee shop just down the street from the same apartment and from the gym. And I was just studying. It was after senior year and stuff, or during senior year, and I was just drinking a cup of coffee and studying. And I looked up, and who should walk in the front door but Chastity? And she looked at me, and she walked up, and she's like, you're that guy that came in and started, fucking with Daryl, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, that was me. Because I just want to say that, I mean, you really opened my eyes to how likely it is for all that stuff to happen again. So I had to get out of there. So the moral of the story is, if anything, I exposed a dangerous criminal to one of his employees. I guess that's the bright side. And I guess that's what I'm going to take out of it. I guess I'm going to call myself a hero in the situation. And that's a story about how I turned out to be even more sophisticated than I could have expected. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, give it up for Andrew Vickers. Fantastic story. It's funny, one of the best things about America, even though it is technically one of the worst things about America, one of its charms is that it knows how to very quickly degrade your dreams. I love how easily $17 million and killing people turned into, I'll open a gym. I'll just open a gym. That's adorable to me. What do people need? Fitness, not murder, just fitness. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrew. Okay, so our next performer, I'm psyched to have her. She's a longtime member of the Boston comedy community, extremely funny. I love seeing her. She has written jokes that I wrote down on a piece of paper so I could go home and figure out how they worked. She's super, super funny, and you're going to love her to death. So please put your hands together right now for Mariel Cabral.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. It's kind of hokey, but
I've always valued the concept of service, like the idea that my life should be in service of something good. And this is sort of like a family value of sorts. Like both my grandmothers, they were, well, they would have called themselves like housewives or homemakers. Today we'd call them stay-at-home moms. And of course, there's a lot of service and sacrifice in that role. My grandfather, George, he was the executive director of Pennsylvania's Lackawanna County United Way. And my mother, she was a registered nurse. My father, he was a salesman, and his father was an asshole. Sorry, his father was a professional bastard. He was not a good man. And so I'm pretty sure this value of service came from my mother's side. And so after high school, I went to college. I went to Wellesley College, and the motto of Wellesley College is non ministrari sed ministrari, which translates to not to be ministered unto, but to minister. And I spent my career post-college working for nonprofits, working on climate change, trying to build a more financially inclusive world. And I've raised millions of dollars for those nonprofits. I work in fundraising, and that's what I do. And I've raised millions of dollars for those nonprofits because while I value service, I'm obsessed with money. Like just this week, I helped close a grant that was for $3.7 million. Probably one of the largest grants I've ever worked on. And yeah, we're gonna do great stuff with it, but isn't that a lot of money? I do. I love money. I think I like money because I've never personally had a lot of money. But I've always been money adjacent. Like I grew up middle class, but in a town that was generally regarded as upper middle class or upper class. Like Mitt Romney, he, like the rich senator who ran for president. Yeah, he has, when he lived in Massachusetts, he lived in my town. He owned a mansion in my town, my hometown. And I know like that guy is rich enough to have like a mansion in everybody's hometown. But he also has to like tithe 10% to the church. So maybe not. But anyway, so I just love money. Like I've never had money, but I've always seen people with money. I like to be near money. And money's great. But you know, I was trying to figure out like where this family value came from beyond my grandfather and my grandmothers. And because I don't think it came from my great grandparents, because my grandfather's brother, John, was super rich. Like he worked in financial services and he made a shit ton of money, and he collected Japanese silk screens, and he bought, and he lived in New York City, and he owned a penthouse apartment there that overlooked Central Park, like in New York City, because he had so much money. And he was a confirmed bachelor. So when he died, my grandfather had to settle John's estate. And my grandfather was telling us, you know, all about the how they sold this apartment to these two very nice young men. And, you know, like immediately, like I'm a woman of the world, like all of you, I've figured out that if you can afford a penthouse, you don't need a roommate. So these guys were a couple, but you know, my grandfather didn't share the same values all the same values as I. He was pretty, conservative and religious and Catholic. And so he's going on and telling the whole family how how well dressed these men were and how polite they were, and going on and on. And my very reserved, like, Boston grandmother, who she always looked like this. And she looked like that because like she was judging you, and she looked like that because she was judging you. And she was a woman of very few words, because she had tongue cancer, or she had oral cancer, which is true, and not just because like she was a mean bitch with sharp wit. But she said to my grandfather, he's going on, and she said, "They were gay, George." And everyone in the family is like trying to keep it together, like not like giggle. And my grandfather's losing it. He's like, he's incredulous, and he's, gasping, and he's just saying things like, that thought never would have occurred to me. I'm just so pure. And my grandmother, without missing a beat, said, "Well, I guess I'm not pure, George." It's very great to hear old people say wonderful things like that, but but I think it's really important to remember that just because you might be pure of heart or devote your life to a life of service, it doesn't mean that you're not an asshole.
Guys, give it up for Mary Corral. That was fantastic.
Yeah, woo!
Yeah. I hope that's true, because it also means that being an asshole, I could still be pure of heart. I'm hoping to get the other one. Much appreciated. That was fantastic. I understand that feeling. I have a friend who, if you're poor, or if you're just a regular person who has no money, because that's how regular people are, and you live in Boston, one of the things that you want to get for yourself is a friend who lives in New York, so that you can go there, crash on their couch, see the city without paying for things, blah, blah, blah. And I have lived here a long time. So at one point I got myself a friend in New York, and so I planned a trip, and I wrote to him, and I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking of coming to New York. Can I stay at your house?" And he was like, "Oh, of course." And I got to and I didn't think about the address. I just thought about how to get to the address. And when I got to the address, it was like in the middle of Manhattan, next to Central Park. And I was like, there must be like maybe there's a house they didn't knock down or something, like maybe there's a store that he lives above, or, So I go to the address, I figure out where it is, go inside, and it's like I walked onto the set of a Woody Allen movie that took place 25 years ago. It's very strange to be suddenly in this room that you've only ever seen on a movie screen and never in real life. And I immediately, he opened the door, and I was just like, who are you? Are you Woody Allen's sex slave? Like, why do you live here? And he was like, no. This is like my dad in a marriage divorce, like I just live here temporarily for blah, blah, blah. He had a good explanation. And I was like, okay, we're safe. 'Cause it's strange. A lot of money makes people real strange, makes people real strange. So I appreciate that a lot. Good job. Thank you. It was fun. All right. So our next performer coming to the screen, the stage, whatever we're calling it. He's fantastic. He also used to help me run a show in my house. He is a great storyteller. Literally has taught me how to be a better person, which I would never insult anyone else by saying that about them. It's like, I would never say that about anybody else. I know he can take it, but most people, I wouldn't be that rude. He's lovely, and he's fantastic. You're gonna like him a lot. Please welcome the very funny Brett Johnson.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That is a roast from Angela. Good to be here. I went to college and my major was undecided because and I knew they had an improv troupe at this Christian school, and I wanted to do it. And I wanted to be in it, and because I'd liked doing comedy growing up, and I was like, well, at least I know this much. I know I want to do this at this college. So freshman year, I go out for the troupe. I get in, and it's that thing with like, in school you can't, as a freshman, you don't really like get to hang out with seniors, and that's that often. And but in the improv troupe, there was a bunch of seniors, and they were like, oh my God, they're so funny. Like these guys, they were like, yeah, it was, their wit, they were snarky and the references are good. And it was just cool to be around. There was one guy in the troupe who was not witty though. He wasn't clever. But the weird thing was, every scene he did was like our best scene, and I for a while couldn't compute. I was like, why is he so good when he's not like, well, what a good reference, And I realized it was in every scene he was doing, he had this like openness to being changed, to being affected. Like he was letting what was happening to the character kind of seemed like it was happening to him. And that made it so when he wouldn't say something that was super clever and funny, he would just say it. It was like, oh, that was so good, even though it was just like, I'm sorry or whatever. So that struck me again. I was confused by that because it was like, for me, comedy had been this thing. It was like a way to comment, right? Kind of keep at arm's length, comment on it, and I got a safe distance from it. And then also being raised Christian, it's like, you're essentially sinful, so I gotta steel myself against myself, kind of like put that caution tape up. This guy, he wasn't doing that, and it was really funny. The second half of the year, he starts having more of his friends come hang out at rehearsals, and it's Caitlin and it's Audrey, these different people, and I realized what it is that he's a theater major. Like it's all him and the theater majors coming in, hanging out. And they have the same thing going on. They have the same like different kind of, they were confident, they were assertive with how they were feeling, but it still self-deprecating. Still, like even when they were kind of shit talking, there was still this acknowledgement of like, well, I'm a mess, but also fuck you. It stood out on that, especially on a camp that like a Christian school campus. So I'm liking time with these people. End of the year starts to roll around. They have this one act festival, and I was like, all right, I'll go for a part in that, and for a directing class. I go out, I get a part. Every like cliche about the worst possible thing about theater, this show was that. The show was called, the whole cast was me and one other girl. The show was called Mirad, the Boy from Bosnia. And it was a show about a kid who flees Bosnia-Herzegovina in the conflict. I mean, I had monologues, it was overwrought. I was playing multiple characters. There was like a scene where I was a soldier and I had to like act out sexually assaulting somebody, and it's like, I'm 19, this is really in the wheelhouse. And the director was an insane woman. The senior, like same thing, all the cliches. I remember we spent an entire rehearsal one time. She had me outline in the air the shape of this woman, the woman who I assault in the play. She had me outline like, here's her head, and then I like get to her shoulders, and she'd be like, "Oh, her shoulders are that skinny? Oh, her shoulders are that narrow." So I had to like start over again. And so like 70 minutes into the rehearsal, I'm down on the floor, like tracing this woman's ankles, and she's like, "That seems pretty skinny for an ankle." I'm like, "What?" A nightmare. we do the shows. I get through them. And there's the cast party. All the cast get together. And at the time, I was like, what are more ways that I can be annoying? So I was like doing card tricks at the time. And I'm doing it at the party, and people like, humoring me. But I had a blast. And on the van back, we're all jammed into this car leaving. In the back seat, there's like four of us, and it's freezing cold. And I'm in there, and I'm stuck, and I'm squeezed next to this gal I'd been flirting with for like a week at that point, named Audrey, and she takes my hand kind of secretly, like we held hands like undercover in the back seat, and that was probably the moment I was like, okay, this. I think, all right, I feel at home. So that's my story.
Give it up for Brett Johnson.
Yeah.
Brett, I have to say, I think as a fat lady, my dream is to yell at a 19-year-old kid to like outline someone as fatter. That seems really fun. She sounds like a terrible lady, but also I cannot imagine the joy of just being like, you don't know what women are about. You don't know what's going on there. To some poor kid who's barely got it together. That sounds really fun.
I hope I fueled fantasy. I gave you more material or something.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so our next storyteller, he/she, I gotta say, we've been talking about penthouse apartments in Manhattan and about weirdly sexually assaulting people on stages. And our next performer spent a significant, I don't know if you guys saw it or not because of the way Zoom works, but spent a significant portion of the show with his laptop aimed at a light fixture in a very sad bedroom. And therefore is very perfect to bring to the stage at this moment under their Zoom name. I'll let them decide whether or not they want to tell you their real name. But I'm very pleased to introduce the extremely famous and somehow not in jail right now, Ghislaine Maxwell. Give it up.
Hello. Look, I just want to explain the Ghislaine Maxwell. Like, I'm using my boy's computer. My computer got messed up. It's, sometimes it's just like to wild out like that. Secondly, I love you guys. Thank you. I've been running for a USD cord. I ran across the street to 7-Eleven and back. They're looking at me crazy, but I'm here. Hope you guys like this story. So just to start it off, the quick thing about myself, I was like big into drugs, in particular pills. And basically, of course, the story, it involves pills. It involves actually something else unexpected. But guess starting off with, there's a random day about 3 days ago. I went to a comedy show, and then I bumped into one of my dudes. I haven't seen him in a minute. He's a fellow comedian, but he's known for having like fire Adderall. Like it's not even called Adderall. It's called like Dexa something, but that shit is fire. I'm sorry for swearing, but that's fire. Like just delete your emails for like 5 hours. It's fire. Like just so. And like the thing was, like, he just gave them out. He gave me like 5 of these shits, and I was like, I was like, you want money? And then he's like, nah, man, you're cool. You like not blinking. You're cool. You are one of the boys. So, so I took it, right, and it was just a fire 3 days. I literally did not sleep. Like going on to the 3rd day, I didn't sleep until the end part of the story. You'll get how I slept. But I went to New Hampshire. I did a comedy show. I did fire. I was on point. I was talking to Hicks about methamphetamine and like, you know, shooting guns in the air. It was like crazy. I went to another show, was on point, went to another show. Like I was because I hadn't slept. So I was like, I was seeing stuff, but like fire, straight fire. Your boy could not be touched. So it comes to the third day, and I was like, yo, I am like, my eyes are blurry. I'm like seeing things out of the corner of my eyes. I'm just like, I got to get some sort of like something to like calm me down. So I hit up one of my lady friends. We've been real close. You know, we used to hook up. We're actually very close now. But back then we didn't really know each other. And I honestly, just to say it, I was like, I need to get some Xanax, yo. I need to get some downers. I need to chill because like I'm wilding out right now. So like I like hit her up, go to her place, and she has like rats. She has pet rats. I kind of didn't like rats because like I've always had like rat infestations and all types of other stuff. So like I didn't have beef with rats. If I saw a rat, you know, I'm fine, but I just didn't have any feelings on them. So so I came through. I literally walked in the house, sat down on a chair in the middle of the living room, my arms crossed just like this because I was tight, and I was like, "Hey Audrey, do you have some Xanax for?" And I was just like this for like a straight hour. I think there were some people there, and they were like talking and whatnot, and I was just on this chair, just like tight, just scanning everything, just seeing everything. You know what I mean? So they leave. All of a sudden, everyone starts leaving, and then it's just me and her, and I'm still like on this chair, just like this right here, just clenched. So the rats have been out, and what happens is one of the rats, it just climbs up my leg, and it climbs, and then it climbs eventually to my shoulder, but I'm still tight like this, like I can't even like notice the rat. And I guess that was her cue for like, let's have sex. She was like, he seems receptive to my rats, so he must be a good person. So what happens is, we end up knocking boots. I got you know, it was we talked for we still talk to this day. Like we're two different people now, but you know, it's been like a long, very close friendship / relationship. And that happened because I just let this rat climb. Both of the rats, she had two rats, both of them came up to me. There was one that climbed, and then the other one, they were both on my shit. And I mean, I never thought anything about rats, but two rats at that point, they resulted in me having sex in like a long-term relationship. So I guess my theme was how my relationship with animals changed, and it definitely changed that night. Like I love rats. I watched the little videos on YouTube with like, you know, with like rats doing like hoops and, you know, in ballerina gear and shit. I love rats. So that's my story there. Love rats. They get
Give
you
it
laid.
up for Terrence Pennington. So funny. Also, I gotta tell you, there's no one ever likes pet rats and then decides that they don't like it. The only direction is don't know anything about rats, love rats. They are the best. Rat basketball is the cutest thing that's ever been invented. And I gotta tell you, there is no faster way to get a girl than to let her pet rats on you. There's no faster way.
I dream, just last thing, I dream like I'll have like fantasies that I'll hook up with a chick who has rats, and I'm just cool with the rats, and everything just falls into place.
Boom.
So.
Yeah, the floodgates open. That's how it works. One time, a long time ago, back in the like late 90s, I used to have pet rats for a long time. I like them a lot. They're adorable and sweet and very smart. And I was hooking up with a dude, and he did that. We didn't hook up because of the rats, but we happened to hook up, and he did that thing that dudes will sometimes do, where he was about to finish and he wanted to know where he should do that. And I am not very good at negotiating things like that. I'm very bad at negotiating intimacy. So I didn't come up with an answer. I just kind of gestured away. It's very vague, just gestured away. And that is when a gentleman came on my pet rat.
Oh.
And I was very upset. I think the rat was also very upset. He was a good enough guy that he went and got a towel immediately, and we, fixed up the rat. The rat was not injured, and neither was I, and it was a fine time. But I think that just, it tells you which kind of person I am, and it's not good. but rats are great. Know that. Thank you, Terrence. Terrence Pennington, everybody, the funniest in the fucking world. Love him so much. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, so I have one final performer for you. I'm very excited for him. He is one of the greats around Boston. I love seeing him, and I haven't gotten to see him during quarantine very much, so I'm very excited to hear what he has to say tonight. He's a fantastic storyteller, just one of the best performers anywhere in New England. Please put your hands together right now for E-Train Martinez.
Hey, how you guys doing? Doing good? How you doing, Angela? Doing well?
Good.
Good to see you. Good. So this is a story about how I once convinced this, I gave this black kid some Adderall. I convinced him I was a rat. No, this is a story about my family feud with two of the world's most famous magicians. One day, around high school, we took a family trip down to Busch Gardens, and we got to the tiger engagement. And it's the first time I'd seen a tiger up close, in real life. And I remember just being so, it was a full-grown male, and I started to feel like, oh, how massive this cat was. My dad was standing next to me, and I was like, can you imagine ever, being attacked by a tiger, just having been scared by a tiger? And he just looked at me and goes, imagine, mijo, it happened to me once. And my first thought is how have I gone 17 years and haven't heard about this tiger attack? So he begins to tell me the story that when he was in college, he was living in Puerto Rico. He was the time clerk at the Hotel San Juan Casino. And he has a little tiny office. And what his job was that when you showed up to work, you would go to his office and he took your punch card and he punched the card. And on your way out, he would do the same. Well, pretty soon at the casino had a contract with Siegfried and Roy. And his office was right by the loading dock. And the very first day, before they did any of the shows, they bring all the workers and they explain to them the process. Okay, this is what we do. We bring the truck with the tiger, and we have a cage here on the loading dock. And what we do is we bring the two cages together, and we lift it up, and they show them how they do it. And they said, just make sure all your doors are closed. It shouldn't be a problem. So for weeks on end, this happened, and my dad would always close the door, never think anything about it. And it got so routine that after a while, he just stopped closing his door. He didn't really think anything about it. So then, one day, same routine, they bring the truck back, they lock the two cages together, and they begin to transport the tiger from one cage to the other. But what happened this time was that the cages were interlocked incorrectly. So as the tiger was getting through, the weight of the tiger broke the cages, and he pinned his paw between the two cages. So suddenly the tiger starts lashing out. He's just breaking apart. He literally breaks out of the cage and goes running full force down the hallway. Well, my dad's at his office doing some paperwork. And he hears all this commotion. He looks outside his little window, and he says all he saw was a bunch of brown people just jumping from left to right into just into a closet, into a laundry bin, just people freaking out. And he had no idea what was going on because the window was always so high. All of a sudden, this full-grown male Bengal tiger comes running into his office. And literally, my dad gets against the wall, and the tiger just pushes up against him to the point where my dad cannot move. And the tiger is right there, and the tiger's roaring. This tiger's still in pain. And my dad said that all he thought was this was it. He was going to die, and this tiger's breath was going to be the last thing he smelled. And he was just going to be this was death. He thought this was what death smells like. And behind him, there's like these two little German guys singing, saying, don't move, do not move a bit. And my father's thinking like, fuck, I'm not moving. You don't have to worry about that shit. So they calm the tiger down and everything. And, and they get him back into the cage. And everything's fine. Everything's great. And I'm talking to my dad about this story. And I say to my dad, what was the scariest part? And since the tiger was crotch level, and since I was a teenager, he didn't want to come out and just say I thought the tiger was going to eat my dick. And that's what scared him the most. But it's for him trying to be a proper gentleman. He was like, I thought the tiger was going to bite my honor. So then, right, that became the joke. I was like, oh, Dad, he was going to bite your honor. And I was like, and that became the ongoing joke, like, Siegfried and Roy almost destroyed our family honor. What are you going to do about that, Dad? And he was like, oh, no. Like, we need to get revenge, Siegfried and Roy. We can't let this stand. Our family honor. No. So for many years, that became the joke. And then one day I said to him, hey, do you think they remember you? And he was like, oh, I don't know. So he actually wrote them a letter. And he's like, hey, do you remember this, that, and the other? And of course, they were like, oh, yes, we remember you. And they invited him down to be a guest in Las Vegas to come see the show and everything. And it was a big VIP package, everything. This would be a big deal. 2 weeks before the trip is supposed to happen, I'm watching the TV. And it's that news where we first all hear that Roy was just attacked by the tiger. And Roy was literally almost killed by the tiger. And like the Puerto Rican God himself had told my dad to like call your son right now, the phone rings. And I pick up the phone, I go, hello? And before he even says anything, he goes, son, we won. We won. And that's my now ended family feud with Siegfried and Roy.
Oh, give it up for E-Train Martinez. That's so great. I'm very glad that your family's honor was not besmirched by the teeth of the Bengal tigers. You guys, that's our show. This was a fantastic time. So many great tellers. We had Rachel Jane Anneman, Andrew Vickers, Mario Cabral, Brett Johnson, Terrence Pennington, and E-Train Martinez. And this was one of the most fun episodes of the show. You guys had amazing stories. Thank you very, very much for making me feel like I did something, even though I did nothing. You guys did all the work. Thank you to the Comedy Studio. They put us up every week, and they've never said anything about all the trash behind my chair, which is super nice of them.
We love it.
And we do this every single Wednesday, so please come back and visit us again. All you have to do is go to the Comedy Studio website at 8 p.m. on Wednesdays Eastern Time, and you can see Tales from the Inside. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Ooh, pizza's here.